This is Sarah Leslie with Go All In, helping entrepreneurs live the life they want to live right now, making the money they want to make the way they want to make it, while also living a rich and full life outside of their business. True personal freedom. Let's go. Hey, welcome to Go All In. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad that you are too. All right, getting us started for today. So, as you know, I live just outside of Asheville, North Carolina, which is Swannanoa. It's actually a very small town, and so normally I don't even mention it. However, at the time of this recording, November 2024, we have had a significant flood from a hurricane, Helene. And so apparently Swannanoa is now on the map. Unfortunately for something not amazing, although kind of amazing, devastating, and also amazing at the same time that such a thing could happen here. And so many lessons and learnings and just greater understanding of myself and the world around me have come out of this time period. And as I was thinking about the podcast for this week, about this episode, originally I had entitled this Resiliency, Understanding Resiliency, going deeper into resiliency, a new take on resiliency. And then I was like, you know what? I just don't really resonate with that word. Like, what does that really mean? Right? So I just decided to completely change the title to Working Smarter, Not Harder. And the reason for that, right, is because to me, that is resiliency. When you are really learning how to not overexpend your internal resources, you're just going to be working smarter. You're going to be living life smarter. You're going to be living more enjoyable when you're not, over tapping your own resources. And so to me, when I think about the word resiliency, that is a huge part of it. So if the word resiliency resonates for you, please know that that was what the podcast was what the thoughts that I had in mind for the podcast were centered around resiliency and seeing the shifts within myself this go around through a natural disaster. I've been through several, living in Florida for many years, and also witnessing other people and they're going through it and life being really challenging, and also going through it and being more on this side of witnessing their own skills into action and their own work, their own personal work, and allowing them to go through this disaster in a way that is much more less painful and for their growth. And that's really what comes up for me the most when I think about working smarter, not harder, is a couple of two specifically that I'm going to look at today, significant paradigm shifts in the way that I see the world. So it's a shift in a paradigm, and this is what I mean when I say a paradigm, right? One of the primary worldviews that I have held over my lifetime, shifting that from one way of believing and seeing to a new way of believing and seeing. That for me is what allows you to actually work smarter, not harder. It is not about doing more things, having a different strategy, like a tangible tactical type of strategy, that it's really rooted in the way that you are thinking. And so if you've been tuning into me for a while, you know the biggest thing that I think moves the needle forward is shifting your mindset, shifting the way that you are seeing the world, shifting your focus, not shifting your strategy without having first done the mental work to guide you. So when I'm talking about working smarter, it's always coming from that vantage point, that shifting the way we see things is always going to allow us to work smarter, work less, work more easeful, versus doing more or hustling more or putting in more hours or expending more energy. So the first one that I want to look at today is life is happening to me versus life is happening for me.
Now, the way that I saw this show up this go around through this hurricane is in hurricanes past, I have very much felt like it was necessarily a punishment, but that it was a tragedy, right? And it was something bad that was happening to me, and I was now going to be suffering as a result, right? And the way that I would have interpreted, one year I had lots of the shingles come off of the roof and multiple leaks and water pouring into the top of the townhouse that I lived in for quite some time in Florida. And that whole process, right, felt heavy and difficult, and it happening to me. Now, there was still a lot of growth for just the type of person that I am. I've always been a very growth-oriented person, really since a young child. And even in that mentality, right, and that desire to grow and that desire to learn, which is two of my top interests, I still would have had an outlook that felt like it was happening to me, right? So, like, possibly in my subconscious, thinking I had done something wrong or bad, that I had been bad, and now I was suffering the consequences for it. Or thinking, like, sort of in the vein of I was being tested, right? I was having a hardship happen to see how I was going to deal with it. That I would not have thought about it directly that way, but someone in my world recently vocalized it that way. And I think that picks up the essence of what I would communicate about it. So it's like this feeling of heaviness and like life's difficulty coming at you, right? Versus the way that I see the world now, which is that life is happening for me. And so again, it's a very subtle shift. It's literally a difference of one word inside of this phrase. And the difference is that now, and for a hot minute now, I see that life is unfolding for me. So it's happening so that I can learn and grow, right? It's not happening to me to like see if I will learn and grow and like be a better human. It's happening for me so that I can be a better human, so that I have an opportunity to learn the very lessons that I am needing to better understand so that my life can be more easeful, so that it can feel more joyful, so that it can be more enjoyable to live. Again, this is a radical shift, right? Even though it's a very simple and subtle shift, it's a radical shift. And so I was able to see that this go around with the storm as the storm was even coming. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't feel scared. I'm not saying that I didn't feel upset. I'm not saying that I didn't feel sad, and some distinct moments of panic and fear. All of that happened in this go around as well as would have happened somewhat similarly in past hurricanes. If you haven't been through a hurricane, this is like any sort of like really significant bad thing happening, right? So this time around, I did feel all those feelings. I did have all these different thoughts of fear and worry and uncertainty. And what also came in very quickly, right alongside of that, was allowing myself to look at it as one, just something that was happening. So the tendency when quote unquote bad things happen to us is to judge it as bad. And when we're judging something as bad, there's a negative connotation that goes alongside of that. There are just these feelings that come up alongside of that that are not positive. It's a different mentality. It's a different way of thinking about it where it's like, I'm not thinking like, oh, this is like a bad thing that I don't know that I'm going to be able to handle. I don't know if I'm going to get through it. I don't know what's going to be on the other side of it. I might not make it out. Other people might not make it out. Like, it's going to be really bad. We're going to suffer as a result of this experience, this event, versus going through the event, having these feelings of fear and worry and panic and uncertainty. However, knowing it's happening and I'm going to be okay. It's happening. And as a result of this event, I am going to learn. I'm going to see life differently. I'm going to have a better understanding of myself, a better understanding of other people. There are going to be new opportunities available to me as a result of this happening. So again, it's a subtle difference, but it is so distinct and so significant at the same time. And so again, for everybody going through a tragic event, a very difficult and challenging event that brings up all of the emotions, right? A lot of those primal emotions, you're going to go through it and you're going to feel all of those feelings. The difference is the foundation upon which you're standing will feel more secure when you have this new way of going through life where life is happening for you, it's unfolding for you in your honor and your benefit, to your good, versus this unsteady ground, this uncertainty foundation of, I don't know what's going to come and I don't know if I'm going to be okay. So that being said, as I mentioned on the last podcast, lots of beautiful things came out of this storm. Troy and I have had lots of really unique opportunities of connection, without any kind of power or Wi-Fi. Connection is an interesting thing, right? When you're used to connecting over electrical things and having access to Netflix and whatnot, and then having nothing like that available, right? There's naturally going to be opportunities for a new kind of connecting. And so we've had a lot of opportunities for conversation and sharing and just being close. As well, we've met so many of our neighbors. We've established relationships with people up and down the road. There's a new feeling now, being several weeks out from the storm and the occurrence, of now just being like, I know the people I live around, whereas before, honestly, I didn't know them. I saw them and saw their faces and whatnot, but I didn't have an experience where I felt like I knew them. So there are lots of really beautiful things. The level of support and help and outsiders coming in to help with the cleanup, to help with reconstruction, to help with building, to give out food, to make meals, to give out water. It has been honestly just overwhelming in the best of ways to witness that. And again, that's just like another really beautiful thing, is people having an opportunity to support and help other people regardless of anything related to them, right? Like regardless of, their financial status, their ethnicity, their race, like without any questions asked about who they are or what they're up to in the world. It was like, we saw people in need. We came. Can we help you? What can we do for you? So beautiful. Again, I wouldn't wish the hurricane to happen. Please don't misunderstand me. I would not wish for the hurricane to happen, any of the hurricanes that I've been through. And, that's not what I'm communicating. Well, I'll just leave it at that, right? I'm not communicating to wish for bad things or to wish for challenges. They just will happen. You just know that because that is what life is about. Like, that is a part of life, is the challenges of life will happen. And so instead of evaluating them as good or bad, simply to receive them as events that happen in your lifetime. Okay? All right. So that, in summary, the shift there is looking at life differently. Whereas before you might have looked at life as life is happening to you, right? And there are these bad things that are coming and we don't know how we're going to make it out, versus life is happening for you. It's unfolding for your good. And you can know for certain that you will be okay and that good things will ultimately come out of it, and that it is for your benefit to grow and to learn and expand into more of who you are. The second one that I want to talk about today is, I am not responsible for everyone else. Well, let me just say let me say a shift rather than the statement, because that is ultimately where I want to get with this. But it's like, the old version of me used to feel like I am responsible for everyone, to now the shift is, I am responsible for myself first, and I can help other people. And so that's really the shift, is the old version of me felt this heavy weight of responsibility to take care of whoever and everyone that came through my path, and that I felt a heaviness of being responsible for them, right? So if someone was sad or someone was frustrated or there was a difficult situation transpiring that I was aware of, there was this obligation that would come up inside of me to be available, to help with it, to see it out, to understand it, to et cetera, et cetera. Versus now, the shift here and the state that I now live in and the awareness that I have and the way that I live is very deeply grounded in I am responsible for myself. Kind of, I am responsible for myself, period. And what it's sort of what I expanded into for greater understanding is I am responsible for myself first. And then I have the opportunity to help others, to support others. Okay. So part of what this shift for me personally, and I tend to think, if you're listening to my podcast, you probably have this going on for you as well. And wherever you're at on the spectrum of doing this, feeling that over sense of responsibility. There are lots of reasons why that comes up. Definitely I was the oldest child, and I did feel a lot of responsibility for my sister, for various things going on in our home growing up. My dad worked a lot in the evenings. My mom worked a lot during the day. They were definitely around. I'm not by any means saying my parents were absent. And they were just very busy with other things, ironically, helping other people, right? And so that's actually a lot of what we were modeled, which was this heavy burden of responsibility to take care of other people. My family, both parents of mine worked in not-for-profit. My grandfather did a lot for not-for-profit volunteering, and it was kind of like a part-time job almost, it felt like, but it was all volunteer. So my parents very much modeled this for us, and it was part of what I came to learn as how I should be, right? Giving so much to other people that it felt like that was more important or of a higher good than taking care of oneself. And probably, I would say, equivalent or maybe even slightly more important than taking care of your family, especially because the work where my parents were engaged in, which again is just my own personal experience, you adapt what I'm saying to your experience. They were helping other people seemingly who were in less fortunate situations than we were. And so again, even in that statement, right, there's a lot of judgment that they are worse off. Those people that my parents were giving time and attention to through the church and through other not-for-profit agencies, that they're like worse off, right? And so we have it better. So we should be helping other people who have it worse off than we do. So again, my parents are amazing and they've done the best that they could in raising me, and they did a pretty damn good job, I have to say, all things considered. And what I have since come to learn is that by making that judgment, right, that is where the weight of the responsibility comes into play, is I have it better, right? There's an implication that because my situation appears to be better, whatever that actually means. In this case, to me, what it has meant is that we had greater opportunities, we had more resources. We were oftentimes helping people who were making less money than what my parents were making, or who just didn't seem to have as many nice things available to them, right? Or however it is that they came by their circumstances, right? Which again, now looking back on it as an adult, I'm aware, like, that people make a whole bunch of decisions that lead them to their current circumstances. So by the judgments of, oh, your circumstances aren't as good, or you think that you're in need, and you're now coming to me, right, the church, or to this not-for-profit agency, for example, it's my responsibility because I seemingly have more than you to help you. So again, I'm not, just in case you might be hearing me say not to help people, that's not what I'm saying. Of course, it's not what I'm saying. The thing I really want to zone in on here is the heaviness, the over responsibility, the difficulty with boundaries that so many helpers and givers and leaders have, of being able to say no at some point, of being able to have time, truly time for themselves, to feel renewed, to get refreshed, to enjoy their life in whatever way that is for them to enjoy it, for them to have time and space to be able to experience their own life experience versus this constant nagging feeling of I should be doing more. I should be helping others. I shouldn't have nice things because they don't have nice things, right? You can see, I'm hoping now as I'm talking about it, you could see how that would be a vicious cycle that would honestly never end, right? I don't actually I don't see it in my future. I don't see how we get to the point where we're more equal and more balanced and people are able to enjoy where everybody is having equal amounts of things. Because I don't actually think that is the point for us to have equal amounts of things or for everyone to have the same amounts of money, just for a tangible example. So if I don't think that that's the goal, and yet here I am feeling bad because you don't have as much money as I do, and I then feel responsible for you and feel like I have to give, and you see where I'm going with this? That's a never ending cycle. And so if I'm constantly making sacrifices and or not spending time doing the things that I want to be doing because I'm always thinking I've got to do more and I've got to sacrifice and I've got to, then I actually am completely missing out on what I just believe is the point of life, which is to actually be present in our life and to actually enjoy the experience of being alive and the experience of living. So all of that bringing us back here to the hurricane, and the tangible example that I'll give you for this, for me, having now shifted away from other people being my responsibility to I'm responsible for myself first and I have the opportunity to help, is as the hurricane was unfolding in the subsequent days, had a lot of that old feeling come back to me of I'm responsible for everyone. Our house had very minimal damage comparatively to the people that lived on the other side here next to the river. Had tremendous damage. Many lost their homes. The mobile homes, were thrashed about. Some of the foundational homes had major damage, but pretty much the people on this side of the road had minimal damage. I'm not saying they didn't, the people, us over here, we had some damage, but it was minimal comparatively, right? But I didn't stay in that place of, I feel bad for you because you had these things happen. And I now feel responsible for you because you had these bad things happen, right? Think about even for yourself when you have a bad thing happen. Do you actually like that sensation of people feeling bad for you? And do you like the sensation of people feeling responsible to take care of you? I mean, no. Most of us. Now, you might specifically, and I would look deeply at that. Like, really, do you like that? And maybe you like it in some situations. It's, take that with a grain of salt, right? And also, it's really the essence of it that I'm going for here. Because again, we're talking about huge paradigm shifts, not just specific instances. So when you look at the bigger picture, I hate having people feel bad for me. That's like a gross feeling because it also undermines my ability to take care of myself, right? It shifts me from being an independent, capable human to being one who is not able to take care of themselves. Quite frankly, that is a belief that I have worked very hard to get out of so that I can feel really deeply confident in myself, in my ideas, and what I'm doing here on the earth. So when you shift away from feeling that sense of over responsibility, it lightens your load. It relieves you of this endless responsibility, this feeling of always being responsible, because literally that will be with you till you die. There's no doing good enough or doing enough because there will always be this suffering, our interpretation of suffering. So on this side of things, right, as the storm was unfolding, it was like, oh, that old me popped up and was like, I got to help all of them. And I got to feel really bad for them. And I got to do this and do that and da 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 da. And then it was like, whoa, I actually reached out to my own coach who was available to help me get through those first few days of the storm, to reground within my new awareness and my new truth, which is, no, I'm not responsible for them. I'm responsible for myself first. Okay. How did I get through this? How am I doing? Where's my head at? How am I feeling emotionally? Where am I at? Right. And then have the opportunity to offer help, to be of service to others, right? When we see service as an obligation, it's no longer really being in service. We're actually acting from a place of us that really embodies the essence of shame. And so we're helping from that place inside of us, which is not a good place, right? It's a place where we feel bad about ourselves and about other people ultimately, when you really pare it down, which I'm not going to do right here. So going through this storm, as all of these people descended upon the area to help within days, like literally as soon as you could actually get to this area and the roads were cleared enough, it was like I still had these moments of struggling in those, first several days. And again, as I worked it through with my own coach and really looked at it and looked at it and looked at it, I was like, oh, yeah, actually, I'm not needed here. There are so many people descending and so many people stepping up and attending. I don't need to get out there, right? So again, just to take notice here, if I were in a situation and no one was taking action or only a few people and there were like masses suffering, of course, right? That is different. And it still fits within the same conversation. I'm still not responsible for them. It is not my obligation as a human to take care of them. It's a desire that I have innately as a leader, as a person who cares deeply about other people. It would just be a natural desire. I would still take 5 minutes for myself, whatever that looks like, right? I would still get myself situated and oriented so that I could show up powerfully, which before I would have just gone straight through. I worked many, many times just straight through, and I became exhausted and burnt out and eventually very resentful towards life. So I would still not recommend working straight through. I mean, even for the people that were here, it was like, take some time for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to get sick, and it leads to other problems. So you still take time, even when you're one of just a few that are not in the struggle and in the suffering. Take time for yourself. And then, of course, get right into action and help your people that are, however you're feeling called to do that. And so again, really tapping into our true selves and to that deeper part of us that knows what's best for us, that doesn't feel fear and shame, right? However you want to define that, your higher self, your divine self, the God within you. When you're really tapped into that, you can make your very best decisions. And you don't feel responsible for others when you're really tapped into that genuine place. Because I just believe it's the truth that you're not responsible for others. Okay, so couple of major paradigm shifts that I feel like allow you to work smarter instead of harder, and ultimately allow you to be resilient through all of life's many challenges that will occur. Okay. You get to shift away from life is happening to me, and you get to live in this new beautiful place where life is happening for you. And you also get to shift away from the heavy burden of responsibility and the weight of being obligated to do this or that or the other, and instead live within the realm where your only responsibility is yourself, and then opportunities to serve are available for you. Okay. And as always, the way to allow the shift in you in both of these distinct areas so that you can live a more easeful, more enjoyable life is through the mental work. It's through the shifting within our thoughts, within our beliefs, within our feelings, that we allow for those kind of massive shifts to happen and come into alignment with life, right? I believe there are just natural laws in place. And when you come into a real understanding of those, and you come into a way of living in accordance with those, your entire life just gets easier. So that is it for me, folks. As always, let me add on actually, as this will be airing very shortly, I am offering the Sales Mastermind again, Creating Clients and Cash Flow Mastermind for Coaches, which starts December 29th. Sorry, December 4th. And enrollment for the mastermind closes on November 29th. So if you are interested, pop into the show notes, send me an email. I will send you a one-page description with all of the details. And then if you're interested, we'll set up a time for you and I to meet with each other to make sure that it's a good fit. And I'm really looking forward to it. We had fantastic results from this first round. And looking forward to a second round of it to make money during the holidays, right? That's one of those things that people say you don't make money in December. Nonsense. Everybody can make money. Actually, they probably say only stores and retail make money during December. That's not true. Everybody has the availability and opportunity to make money during December. So if you're a coach and somebody who provides coaching and sells your own packages, and you would like in on that, shoot me an email. I look forward to talking to you. For the rest of you, I will see you in 2 weeks. Cheers.
Ready to hire your own personal one-to-one mentor to help you take your life and your business to the next level? Go to my website where you can sign up for a no charge, no pressure consultation where we can get to know each other better. I get to hear your vision. I'll help you understand exactly what's getting in your way. And if it feels like a good fit and I believe I can help you, we'll talk about what it looks like to work together.